Hi, today we're in Joshua Tree National Park at Jumbo Rocks Campground, and at the amphitheater is the trailhead to Skull Rock Trail. We'll head down here, and it's a 1.7 mile round trip. And we'll also head down to Split Rock and a couple other sites. Make sure you take plenty of water. First up, here's a cat claw. Alright, because he's got little spines on him. Look like cat's claws. He's called a wait a minute bush for two reasons. One is, if you're going inside there, wait a minute, don't go inside. And the other is, if you get snagged, you haul up to your friends, you go, hey guys, wait a minute, I'm stuck. Alright, and here, that is desert mistletoe. Phorandendron californicum. He's a parasite on this guy. And eventually he'll just suck him dry. Of course we have our California juniper here. And we got plenty of our Joshua trees. Yucca brevifolia. Okay. Got a cat claw. Here's the trail. We'll just kind of talk about this as we move along. Here's our Mojave yucca, Yucca Chadigara. Alright, so he's related to our Joshua trees. And you notice it kind of curls up here along the margins, this little fiber. Okay, you take that little fiber, you can make baskets or sandals or even nets for catching little rabbits and hares. So the main Skull Rock trailhead starts at Jumbo Rocks. The difficulty rating is easy. It takes about 1 to 2 hours. Unless you're like me, we stop at every little bush. This is the pencil cholla. Alright. Check it out. Little pencil-like segments. Really pointy spines. So the trails are dirt and rock. There's some stairs, some steep sections, and some narrow sections. And we got some little interpretive signs you can look at as you go along. And this is our desert's most successful plant in the Mojave and the Sonoran. He's called a Laria tridentata. He's called a Creosote Bush. And he's basically the medicine cabinet of the Native American Indians. It's pretty much a panacea and a cure-all for anything that penicillin cures today. Alright, he's also called a gobernadora because he's the governor of a area. He's like the dominant species out in the desert, so they call him gobernadora. Here, that's called a creosote gall, caused by a little bug called the creosote midge, who burrows in there or lays his larvae. And the creosote causes that little gall, like a callus or a blister, to fight it off. And eventually that gall falls to the ground. This guy's all over the place. Our creosote bush. Hey, this is a cotton thorn, Tetradimia axillaris. He can survive the desert by modifying his leaves into long, slender spines or thorns. Alright? And his roots are really good at helping prevent erosion on the slopes. Okay. Cotton thorn bush. Look at these little tiny leaves here. Alright, we've got these thorns as well. So our pencil cholla here, so he's called Cylindropuntia ramosissima. He grows about 2 to 5 feet high, and his seeds are actually sterile. Alright, so the only way he propagates is when his stems drop, then they take root, or some little animal carries it off or it gets stuck on him. He takes it to a new location. Our pencil cholla. Hey, and this is not unusual, but how about that? A pine tree in the middle of the desert. This is a pinyon pine. Alright, look at that trunk. And all that multi-branching going on. Okay. You see here the leaves. Are the little pines here. See how they kind of all cluster in there? So there's two types of pine trees, or pinyon pine. One has single needles and one has bunch needles, and this guy has bunch needles. How about that? And you see this plant all over the place. This is our jojoba, Semansia chinensis, right? Known as a goat nut, deer nut, coffee berry. So the Native Americans, they'd use the nuts, they'd grind them up to make coffee. And the ground squirrels love the nuts for their winter food. And then it does have some medicinal properties, but I'm not exactly sure what they are. So consult with your doctor whenever I tell you anything about these plants. All right? Got that? Okay, continue on. This is all part of Jumbo Rocks. You can kind of obviously tell from the Jumbo Rocks all around. Great diversity of plants. And maybe we'll see some animals. All right. Another one of our Cylindropuntia cacti. So this is our California buckwheat, also red top buckwheat or wild buckwheat. It's Eriogonum fasciculatum. And it gets its name fasciculatum because the leaf clusters, they come in fascicles as they work themselves up the stem. A fascicle is a bunch. There's a bunch and a bunch and a bunch. Gets to the top. This is real common in all California chaparral, from the coast all the way up to the mountains. He's not blooming yet, but when he does, you'll get this array of flowers on the top up here. He's great for bees. All right, Eriogonum fasciculatum. So here's our desert almond. And here we have what's called tent caterpillars. It's like a cocoon where all the little caterpillar larvae in there. Here's another look at one of our California junipers, Juniperus californica. He grows all along the mountain slopes out here in Mojave Desert. Here's one of our Mojave yuccas, Yucca Chadigara, and he's blooming away with these beautiful, beautiful flowers. And here are the seeds of our California juniper, right there, right? So this is our desert holly. And our desert holly here, all right, look at the little leaves, how they're kind of serrated, they bend. Looks like European holly, all right? They got little berries on it that also look like European holly berries. And that's why it's called this kind of a plant. All right, desert holly. So this guy here, he looks like a holly, but he's like a little desert oak tree. All right, see the leaves here? All right, a little different style of oak tree here, but they're very serrated. They're nice and green, and they're pretty hard and waxy. That helps with transpiration and loss of water. We got all sorts of goodies out here. And here's the same oak when he's a bit healthier, taller. He grows like a tree. This guy here is falling down. Okay? And he's called a Mojave Desert Oak, Quercus dumosa turbinella. He's host to a lot of parasites. Okay? But we find him out here. And the chipmunks and the birds, they love to feast on the little nuts or the acorns from this oak tree. All right, we made it to Skull Rock. And you can tell why it's called Skull Rock up here. All right. Because it looks like a giant skull. Right up here. Alright. This is Skull Rock. It gets really crowded up here. Even on the weekdays. So I hope you liked the tour of Skull Rock Trail and Skull Rock.